Good morning and welcome to Canada Reads American Style. This is our semi-monthly reading from our shelves in which Rebecca and I, hello Rebecca.
Hello.
I'm Tara. We share the books that we have read from our physical shelves with you. It's a way to keep ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. You
It,
want to
it
start?
helps. I have
It
to
does.
laugh. It does
It
help.
really
It's a
does.
good thing. Well, can I just give a shout out? I have a almost 10-year-old grandnephew who just discovered yesterday that I have a YouTube channel and a podcast, and he
Yep.
was kind of surprised that I do. So I think maybe I'm not so much a dinosaur to him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he thinks I'm a little bit cool, but I want to give a big shout out to Teddy, who now his family, they're in the military and they moved across country, and he's getting settled in his new home with his sister Hannah. And just a big shout out to Teddy and Hannah. So wanted to just
Hi,
put that out
Teddy.
there.
Hi, Hannah.
So all right. And what was the question? So like, how am I
Uh,
doing or
uh,
whatever?
oh, yeah. You want to start with what are you currently reading?
Yes, what I'm currently reading, and can I just say I'm channeling cooler weather with my snow
Mm-hmm.
background, by the way, my winter background. Yes, I will show you. This is what I'm currently reading. It's called Show by Shane Peacock, and the publisher reached out to me. It's a YA novel, and it's the kind of story that I would not pick up on my own. I just wouldn't pick it up, but I'm really enjoying it. And it's basically about this young man, Solomon, who it's supposed to be like 1899 Toronto area, and but it's not quite real life. Like I think there's going to be a little bit more, not magic
Mm.
realism, maybe. I'm not sure yet. But basically, he leaves home. His father dies. He leaves home because he wants to go into the city to try to make money to send back to his family. And he meets a, I want to say circus freak, which I hate that word, but I don't know what
Yeah.
else to call it at this point. It's not really a circus. It's like you went in on Young Street and you saw this it was the snake boy, and he was going to bite the head off animals, drink their blood, and all this weird stuff. And he ends up meeting this boy. Well, it's not, he looks like a boy, but it's actually a man that's just very short. I believe he's a little person. And they helps him escape from these men that are exploiting him, and they're on the run. And now these two men who are after them are after both of them to like off them. And I have to tell you, it's kind of fun to read about Toronto in that time
Yeah.
period, but it's not quite Toronto.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good story so far, and I anticipated it will be wonderful because what I discovered is Shane Peacock has written a boatload of books, and they all look fabulous. And I think he's a very known YA author. He isn't to me. He's a Canadian YA author, and I haven't read a lot of that genre. But anyway, I'm enjoying it. So I'm very
Excellent.
thankful that the publisher sent it out to me. Yeah,
I love reading about historical Toronto. I wasn't
yeah.
raised here. Obviously, I live close by now, but I love reading about Toronto way back when. It's just
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I recognize as soon as they said Young Street, I didn't know it was set like in Toronto. And it said Young and Adelaide. And I was like, wait a minute. And I looked it up and I'm like, yeah, I know
Yeah.
where Young and Adelaide are. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Super fun.
So what are
Okay.
you reading?
I'm currently reading a memoir. It is called May It Have a Happy Ending by Minelle Mahtani. And holy crap, do I love this book.
Yeah.
I love it. So it's about Minelle. It's written, I love the format, very short chapters, like one page, two, three. The longest chapter might be like 4 pages. So they're like really like sweet little bite-sized chapters. And it is like just as a tagline, it is about Minelle finding her voice as her mother is losing her voice. So her mother has mouth cancer, so loses the ability to speak. And at the same time, Minelle, through a new career opportunity as a radio show host, is finding her voice and how to get across what she wants her show to be in terms of content and how she wants the relationship between her and her guests to be. It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That does sound really impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm currently reading and I am loving it. So Okay, do we want to switch on to what we have read?
Yeah. Well, I have a number of books. All my books are books that are going to be read from my shelf
Okay.
because these are literally the ones that are highest on my priority list right now. Something else can sneak in, but these are my highest priority. So this one is Dear Life by Alice Munro. I've not yet read any Alice Munro,
Yeah.
and I picked this book up right before the big controversy about her and her daughter came out. And at the time, I was just like, oh, like, am I going to read it? Because it's just such a hard thing to navigate that situation, right?
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, I read a lot of classic literature, and the truth is, if you look up any of those authors from that time period, there's going to be some kind of controversy. I'm not downplaying anybody's
No.
controversy, but we've kept all these great classic books alive, even though the authors may be very problematic. And so I just said to myself, you know what? I'm going to read it. Everybody just talks about how she is the quintessential Canadian short story writer, and I'm going to do, and this is like a collection. So that's
Mhm.
why I had picked it up to give me a little bit of a hint of the best. So I am looking forward to reading it. And have you read a lot of Munro?
No, I've read a couple of hers, but I have
Mhm.
quite a few on my shelf, and I am currently working my way through one for same reason.
Oh,
Same reason.
yeah, yeah.
And it's very timely that you brought this because earlier this morning, so friend of the podcast and author Louise Ells, I
Mhm.
saw that she recently, I think she's returned or she may still be in the UK. She was attending a writers conference.
Yeah.
And I saw this morning she shared a picture she had presented at this conference about Alice Munro and separating the artist from the work. And yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I did interview her fairly recently, Louise, and we talked a little bit about that because that was her PhD was about
Mhm.
her academic background is in Alice Munro, which I thought was really interesting, and it was a wonderful interview, and I'll put the link up to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And she has a great short story collection, which I've read and I think you are reading or going to
Hmm.
read
Hmm.
sometime
Yeah,
at some point. Okay.
yeah.
My first book is not a surprise, a Helen Humphreys book. I'm going to try and get closer. So it is The Ghost Orchard, and it's in my continuing challenge to read through Helen Humphrey's backlist. This one, I can't remember the publication, might be 2017. I don't know. I just may have just made that up. But it's a nonfiction, and it is the history of the apple and the apple orchard in North America, and it is stunning. It is beautiful. Helen Humphreys.
Yeah,
And great illustrations because she uses illustrations. A lot of the history is American.
yeah.
Um, and the government set up like an actual like apple. I'm making up the name again. And I'm sorry, see, I'm using one hand to hold up my laptop so I can't
Mm,
flip through my book. So I'm so sorry. The lighting's better here. I apologize. But anyway, so I'm going to make up a name. The Apple Department. That's not the
yeah,
name of it. But they like literally like hired watercolor colorists to paint pictures of all the different types of apples in available in the US. And so she includes some of those illustrations in the book. It's
yeah. And for those who might be in the know, I'm going to assume it's during the Works Project Administration, which was during the Roosevelt administration, where
yeah.
they had a lot of artists. I've seen a lot of works that came out from that time period. I mean, great artists who
Mm-hmm.
were creating things because it gave people work and also highlighted things that were really important to
Yeah.
our quality of life. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of women. A lot of the artists were
mhm.
women too that were employed, which is
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, ta-da! This was the second book I was bringing. I didn't want to give it away, but yeah, this is Louise Ells' book,
Yeah.
Notes Towards Recovery. I've only read the first short story so far,
Oh,
but she sent this to me, which was just so lovely. And again, I interviewed her after I read Lies I Told My Sister, which I absolutely loved her novel, and I'm really looking forward to reading this because I know you enjoyed it, and
loved it.
I'm confident I will enjoy it as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, because in fact, in your Instagram review, you made a comment about reading that first story and how it really, and I thought, yeah, I read that. And so as soon as the book arrived, I literally opened it up and read that first story right immediately as I opened that book. And
Yeah.
yeah, the first story will grab you for sure.
Yeah. I loved it.
Oh,
I
hey,
have
wait a minute, I have a question for you. Let me ask you your take on this. So because I have these two books of two collections of short stories, I was thinking about sort of reading them, like reading one from Alice Munro, reading one from
a
Louise, kind of going back and forth. Do you think it's okay to read like two different authors in a collection like that, or should I just concentrate on one and then the other? I'm curious if you or others have an opinion about that.
Oh, I say go with what you want to do. So I tend to read like a collection of short stories. At the same time, I also have one of Munro's collections going. So what
You
I've
do.
been doing is I'm reading a collection currently. I can't remember. I can't remember the name, but it's an old one. It's the one that the author of the Yellow Wallpaper.
Oh yeah, Charlotte Perkins Gilman.
Yes. So I'm reading hers. But in between collections, what I like to do is kind of like do a cleanse with Alice Munro.
Oh,
Like
okay.
in between. Now it takes a long time. It's going to take a long time to get through Alice Munro that way. But I have
Yeah.
no problem with like you doing alternating Munro and
Because
Ells.
yeah, because my only concern is what if I cannot then remember whose story is whose story? You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like if I intermix them, will I later go, I don't know, was that Louise or was that Alice Munro? You know what I mean? Like that was my
Yeah,
only concern if I were to kind of mash them together in a way.
I
But
see.
you
But
know,
then you can get like story collections like that are best of 2025, which are just tons of authors, right?
yeah,
And
good
same with
point.
the poetry, like the current poetry collection I'm reading, it's just at least a dozen different poets.
Okay. That answers
Yeah,
my question because then yeah, I'll read both at the same time, kind of mix and match them. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, thank you. All right.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, okay, I'm bringing another collection, a story collection as well that I've read, and it is Skin by Catherine Bush. I read this a while ago. I'm going to just read the back of it quickly. Skin dives under the surface of relationships, revealing hidden streams of desire, longing, pain, and deliverance. In successive stories that are penetrating and absorbing, Bush also explores how we are deepening our love affair in this time of climate storms and glacier melt with the more than human world. Oh, that is actually a not a description of the book, but like a blurb that someone, the author Shanna Lambert, author of Petra, wrote about the book. And actually, I just kind of randomly chose that, and it is a perfect description of this book because I think before I picked it up, I'd read a description that it was like eco environmentally themed stories. And when I was reading through it, I was like, oh, I don't like, I get it every now and then in one of the stories, but I didn't see that as weaving throughout. But Shanna Lambert perfectly described it in just then. So she's
There
good.
you go.
Anyway, so this is one, as a whole, I enjoyed the collection, but I enjoyed some stories more than others. Some hit harder than others. Those that did hit are sticking with me. And she's a good author, just that not every story
Yeah.
really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. Uh yeah, because you don't always not like you said, not
Yeah.
everyone will always hit. So
Yeah.
well, my next book, so the next three books I have were all books I picked up last year at Eden Mills, the literary festival that is in September in Eden Mills, Ontario. And I am really excited to read all three of these. And that's why I pushed them up. Well, sort of push them up on my list because I give myself a year to read everything that I've
Yeah.
purchased. But Crooked Teeth,
Oh, yeah.
a queer Syrian refugee memoir by Danny Ramadan. And it's so funny because I had gone up to the table because I wanted to buy some children's books for one of my kids and my little kids. And Danny had the series. I think I bought three of. I think it's three in the series of. I think it's Salma is the character's name, about a little girl, a little Syrian girl who moves to Canada. Anyway, with her family, of course. But so I was standing there and I was picking up the books to purchase them, and then a man standing next to me said, "Would you like me to sign those books for you?" And I turned around and it was the author, which I thought was so hilarious. So he signed all the books for her and also signed this book when I bought this one as well. But I've heard nothing but just great. Have you read this yet?
No, but I've heard
Okay.
great things about it.
Exactly. I've heard great things about it. I think it's won some awards. In fact, this one says winner of a Lambda Literary Award, but I don't know if that's for something else or if it's particularly for this book. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. I did see him at Eden Mills, and he was fabulous because it was a panel that had some serious things to talk about, but the panel also, all of them were very funny. So it was just a wildly entertaining session that I'm
Mhm.
so glad I got to see kind of both sides of him, that kind of serious side and that really hilarious side, which he's a natural funny person, which I
Yeah.
think I wish I had been born that way. My gosh, it's so fun. Anyway, I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah. Nice. Me too, eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm bringing a little sci-fi right now. So it is The
Oh
Midnight
yeah.
Project by Christy Climenhage. Might be her first book. I'm not quite sure. I shouldn't make stuff up like that. But it is in the near future dystopian, uh, on the verge of apocalyptic world. Like shit is going down, and there are two um, scientists, and they are Raina and Cedric. They are genetic scientists. They have been disgraced earlier in their career, but they've come together now, and they basically, yeah, they're genetic scientists. And a billionaire comes to them and says, "Hey, I would like you to create a new species of human who can survive the upcoming apocalypse." And they have to live underwater and stuff like this. And so Raina and Cedric, they're torn because they're like, this doesn't seem right, but yet we need the money. So they take this on, and then it's just what happens from there. Uh, I really enjoyed this book. I loved the how they she set it up that you get three perspectives. So you get Raina's perspective, uh, usually through first person. We get Cedric's through video journals that he puts through. So I really like that. So, and each perspective, the way it's presented is different. And then we have a third character, Coralie, or it might be Coralie, and her voice is special. And I love this character. I do not want to put any spoilers out there, but I would highly recommend this book. It's a fun book. It's got something to say, and Coralie is such a special character. Like it's a very cool book.
Remember, as soon as I remembered you talking about this somewhere at some point,
Yeah,
and then I did remember that you really liked that character in
I
particular.
did.
So
I
yeah,
did.
you might have to tell me offline why she's special, because
Yeah.
that is a book I don't think I would read. I can't read the billionaires or climate change stuff
Yeah.
or apocalypse.
I
I can't
know.
read that stuff.
And like spoiler,
We're we're
the
living it,
billionaire
so
is not a good guy. Like,
you know what?
yeah, I know.
That's not a spoiler.
Shocker.
Exactly.
Shocker.
All
But
right.
yeah,
So
I will.
afterwards, yeah, tell me who it is. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. Again, Eden Mills, The Laundryman's Boy, Edward Y.C. Lee. And this, I'll read a little bit of the background because it's just when he spoke of this book, it absolutely 100% made me want to read this story. So it's fall 1913, St. Catharines, Ontario. 13-year-old Hoi Wing Wu, the son of a scholar, is forced to give up his dreams of an education when he is sent to work in a Chinese laundry in Canada. He is promptly thrust into relentless, mind-numbing toil, washing clothes by hand for 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. Isolated and friendless, he falls into despair. He does meet someone, an Irish scullery maid, who shares his love of books, and then there's a relationship there. And I mean to tell you, this, when he spoke of it, it was just a beautiful telling. And then there's also a true history of this in that part of
Mhm.
Ontario, that there were Chinese. I love what you're, I'm sorry. That was the best thing ever, I swear. It was like you were on a train and the train was just going.
To get you not to notice because the sun is coming out, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, I'm like being blown out here.
I'm sorry, that was the That was the best. There's
And
your laugh. There's your laugh for today, everybody. There's your laugh for today. That was too funny.
sorry.
No, that's
Okay,
okay. Okay.
continue. I
All right.
apologize.
No, that's okay. I loved it. Okay. So just to say that in this part of Ontario at that time period in Canadian history, that was true. There were a lot of Chinese laundries in that part. And he really is telling a story, a background story that's true. And it's very possible, I can't remember now if that was someone in his family that he's kind of, it might be like his grandfather that he was kind of writing the story about, but don't quote me on that. I will, when I read it, I will let you know. But I am really looking forward to reading that. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you reading that because I remember you seeing him that at Eden Mills, right? So I wasn't there for that session. So I
yeah,
know you're excited for that book, and I'm actually excited to read that book too. I've heard good
yeah.
things about it. Yeah. Okay, my next one, I read a Lesley Crewe book. So
Oh,
Death and Other Inconveniences. Yes, I love Lesley Crewe. I've read a couple of her books.
yeah.
So I was excited for this one. Oh, so this is about Margot. Her husband Dick has died. He's dead. And it's essentially Margot has always been taken care. I know I did like saying Dick is
Ah,
dead.
shoot.
Anyways, Margot has always been taken care of by Dick. I don't want to say that.
Richard.
By her
Richard.
children. Her daughter has always been the one to take care of her. And Margot now has to find a new life. She wants to start taking care of herself and find her way through. So I love the story. I love that there is a middle-aged protagonist or an elderly protagonist that's, and it's full of great characters. So I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as her other books that I've read. So it fell a little flat for me. I can't really explain why, because it's really funny. It's got a lot of heart, but just fell a little flat for me.
Okay. Was it the ending that felt a little flat, or just the theme, like just throughout, you just feeling like it's not quite as up to like her standard of the other ones you've read?
Yeah, like I always, the other books I've read, so it was The Spoon Stealer I've
Mhm.
read, and
Yeah,
I
what's that
can't
other
remember
one?
the other one. Nosy Parker. That was the
Yeah,
other one.
yeah,
And they're always there's the same thing. You have great characters, story, they're funny, and then at the end there's always this part. The other two books, anyways, there's always at the end you get to the end and she just like kind of reaches in and grabs your heart and gives it a little twist. And I that was missing from this book. Like it was just kind of I felt like it just kind of went on. It's just doing its thing, and it
yeah,
just kind of stayed that way through even at the end, like it didn't kind of
yeah.
jump in and get me,
Okay.
if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
still, I
yeah.
enjoyed it. It was perfect for what I wanted at that time too, but
No,
I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
yeah. Well, that's a little bit of like a little bit disappointing, but it's not to say, as we always say, what one person loves, somebody else, whatever. So
Yeah,
somebody else may love it.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I don't regret reading it, and it will not stop me from reading any of your other books. Like I'm still
yeah,
like, yep, enjoyed it. I'm going to keep going.
yeah. I want to read Nosy Parker. That one's on my list. So all right, my last book from Eden Mills from last year is The Taste of Hunger by Barbara Joan Scott.
Oh,
And I loved her talk so much. I told her I really felt confident. I'm going to stay confident that I'm going to love this book. And I told her I would love to interview her. And I said that last year. So hopefully she remembers, or at least when I reach out at some point, she'll say yes. But here's what it's about. It says in Saskatchewan in the late 1920s, a 15-year-old Ukrainian immigrant named Olena is forced into marriage with Taras, a man twice her age, who wants her even though she has refused him. Stuck in a hardscrabble life with a husband she despises, starved for a life of her own choosing, at every turn, Olena rebels against her husband and her fate. And what's really interesting is this is kind of the author's grandmother's story. Not exactly, but kind of.
yeah.
And she spoke again. She was fabulous. And when she was telling the story of her grandmother, in fact, I asked a question about because there is some sex in the book. And I said, so since you kind of wrote about your grandmother, how do you think she would feel about you having written this book about her? And she gave a great answer. We all had a great laugh, which is that she would be kind of horrified by it. So I thought 100% that made me want to read it because she really is kind of telling the real truth behind these women's experiences that were coming as, young brides to older men and that whole thing. And so I'm really excited to read that one.
Awesome. Um, I have another Saskatchewan book. Like I love how we're like, there's
We
some
do,
like,
we vibe.
yeah. So I have Sleepers and Ties by Gail Fitzpatrick, which I know is her first book, set in Saskatchewan. Sleepers and Ties. It's a reference to railways and trains for those who don't know, because I don't think I clued in when I first picked this up. I think the sleepers might be the UK term for the same thing as ties. It doesn't matter because in the back there's a glossary of railway
Right.
terms.
Yeah.
So you can
Well, then
always
what does it say about sleepers? What's it? Okay, you have to look it up now. What's it
I
say about
do.
sleepers?
Ah, oh my gosh, it's not here.
It's not? Okay.
No, I think I had to look it up myself. Like I Googled it, but sleepers and ties is
Hmm.
not in that. Oh, wait, no. Yes, here it is. So in the first railway term for ballast, track ballast forms the track bed upon which railroad ties, in brackets sleepers, are laid. So it's the
Okay.
UK and Canadian term for the same thing. Interesting, because
Yeah,
something just clicked in my brain too about something, a book and an
yeah.
element of the story. So
I wouldn't
each
have guessed that.
chapter is named after a railway term. Then you can go to the back, get the definition of said term, and it in some way not corresponds, but they kind of like it makes sense with what happens in the chapter. So what is happening? Margaret, who is a middle-aged museum curator, returns. She lives in BC, but she returns to her hometown in Saskatchewan with her sister's ashes to listen to the last reading of her sister's will, because there's something that even though her sister also lived in BC at that time, they have to go back to her hometown legally. I can't remember the reason why, to have it read. When she gets there, listens to the will, she learns two things, that her sister has left two things. One, an extremely large amount of money that she was not expecting. And two, the wish that Margaret reestablish the railroad track that went through their childhood town, their hometown, through which their father worked for. So Margaret now has to figure out whether she wants to do this, whether she can do it, how much money it will cost, what it will cost to her life, her career. Does she have to give up her career in BC? It's a whole bunch of stuff. And in among that, there's the relationship between Margaret and her husband, who's out in BC, a UK nature scientist, ornithologist that she meets while she's in Saskatchewan. So I love that relationship.
Yeah.
We learned about her relationship with her sister and with her longest childhood friend. It is a lovely book that the more I dove into it, the more I enjoyed it. And then even every time I think about it or talk about it, I enjoy it even more. So,
And that is so high on my list, I have to tell you. Now, I need
yeah,
you to look up a term in the back of the book. I want to
yeah.
know, is narrow gauge there? Because
Gauge,
go ahead.
gauge.
Narrow,
So not
narrow
narrow
gauge.
gauge,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
just
Narrow
gauge.
gauge. It doesn't say narrow or standard gauge.
No, we just get gauge, the width between the interfaces of the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm a geography major from Berkeley, and it was so funny because I'd taken a class one time about transportation or something, and about building the railroads across the country. And it was so funny because they started out narrow gauge, so they were very narrow, and then they created standard, so like all trains in North America would be able to run on a standard gauge. But I never forgot that term, and it's just so funny
Yeah.
because every once in a while you'll come across where you'll see like in museums or something, a narrow gauge train. So it's just kind of cool because that's one of those little things I never forgot about a class a million
Yeah.
years ago. So yeah.
Well, it's a Rebecca book. As I was reading it, Rebecca would love this book.
Yeah.
because of the story
100%.
and that little extra about railroads and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, my last book is kind of a little bit more sobering, but I follow Hala Alyan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And she's now I'm not sure where she's from originally. If she's Palestinian, she is Palestinian. Okay. I read her book Salt Houses, which was absolutely one of the most, that was one of the best reads I had the year that I read it. And I wrote so many quotes down from it because she just has a way with words and expressing herself. Absolutely beautiful. So she's written a memoir. I'll tell you
Mm.
when I'm home. And I saw this on her Instagram account where it was you could pre-order. So I immediately pre-ordered it. And to be honest with you, it's not normally a story I would read, but I just love her so much. I love her Instagram account. I love Salt Houses. But it says here it's a debut memoir by award-winning Palestinian American poet and novelist, a stunningly lyrical, brutally honest quest for motherhood, selfhood, and peoplehood. And it says after a decade of yearning for parenthood through years marked by miscarriage after miscarriage, Hala makes a decision to use a surrogate. In this charged time, she turns to the archetype of the waiting woman, the Scheherazade who tells stories to ensure another dawn. And this is to confront her own narratives of love, exile, and inheritance. And then the rest of it makes it even more compelling. And because I was never a mom, I don't necessarily feel drawn to stories of motherhood per se. I mean, obviously, I read tons of them, but that isn't something that would make me want to, like, oh, yes, I want to read this. But
Yeah.
as soon as I saw this memoir, I thought I need to know more about her life and
Yeah.
who she is because her writing is just so her novel was lyrical, her memoir is lyrical. I'm excited to read it.
Yeah. Is that fairly new? Like
Yeah,
within?
it just I mean, I live literally it is a 2025
Okay.
book publication. But I mean, when I saw her post this, I would say it was like 2 months ago. As soon as I saw it said you pre-order, I went pre-order, and then I just received it. So I don't know exactly what month, but yes,
Yeah, but
it's
it's very new.
brand new, brand new, brand new. Yep.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, I also have a new one. So the newest Guy Gavriel K, written on the dark with beautiful sprayed edges. Can I just show the sprayed edges there? Look how
Yeah.
pretty they are. Anyways, I love Guy Gavriel K. It's no secret. We spoke about him in the recent audio podcast that we did, so I won't say much except I just love him, love the book. Uh, they're like historical fantasy. This is set like the background is medieval France. It's not in France, but that's just your like a nice little base that you can go into a foundation for the book. It's court intrigue, it's political intrigue, it's love, there's sex, there's poetry. It's classic. Guy Gabriel K. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Um, I have two more. Shall I just go for it then?
Go for it. Yep. I'm done. Yep.
Okay. So nonfiction, Tracking Giants, Big Trees, Tiny Triumphs, and Misadventures in the Forest by Amanda Lewis. Forward by Diana Beresford Kroger. So Amanda Lewis, several years ago, took on the challenge to herself. She's from BC, lived in Toronto, moved back to BC, and wanted to go and find all the giant champion trees that are on a register in BC. So it is essentially, it's about her doing that, but at the same time, falling back in love with just being out in the woods, moving beyond just like ticking off a list of stuff like, yes, I saw that tree, tick, here's a picture, I'm putting it on social media to prove I did it. Moving beyond that to like being in love with what she was doing. Loved it. Nature
Yeah.
and memoir, my favorite
I,
nonfiction.
I have to say, I love that cover. I just think it's kind of, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the old advertisements for federal and national parks in the US back like in the 50s. It just has that vibe to it that it just looks old school to me.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, and it came with a sticker too, which has a similar. Isn't that cute? I know. I'm used. I bought it at I can't remember. I think it's Amherstburg. When I went to Kingsville to Point Pelee, we went, I think the name of the place was Amherstburg, which is about 30 minutes away from Point Pelee, and they have a beautiful independent bookstore, and that's where I found this.
Nice.
Nope, I lied. I did totally
Okay.
lie to you. I did go to that bookstore and bought another book there. I actually bought this in the gift shop at Point Pelee Provincial Park. Yeah. Okay, sorry. When you lie and you sound so good, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I just made that up. I've
And
done that.
nobody would have ever known except for Mike, and I don't think he would have ratted you out. So
No, no, he doesn't listen to this. But in my head, I'm so truthful. Like I'm a terrible liar because I'm like, I just lied. And now I have to tell you that I lied. Like, why would I just, anywho, okay.
I love it.
And then my final book, I'm bringing something completely different and fun. This spells love, a romance. So
Wow.
this is by a local author, Kate Robb. I picked this up. This was published in 2023. So I picked this up a while ago at a book event at my local bookstore, different drummer bookstore. And with her, she was there. And when you bought the book, you also bought like a custom bookmark
Yeah,
that
I
is
talked
the
about that.
main male character in the thing. So that is from Rebecca, and I have both bought bookmarks from this Etsy owner, Steph's Book Therapy. So she makes really great bookmarks. So, anyways, this is Dax
Yeah.
from the book. And you have Gemma and Dax, who are best friends. So this is a best friends to lovers romance with a little bit of fantasy, no, maybe magic realism, because Gemma at the beginning, they're just best friends. She's been dumped by her boyfriend, Stuart, and she wishes that that had never happened. Her and her aunt and sister do like a little love spell. And when she wakes up the next morning, Stuart has never existed. Well, he does, but her relationship with Stuart has never existed. And she kind of gets to start all over with Dax, finding Dax as a best
No.
friend and perhaps lover. So it's a really sweet book. I really loved the two main characters. The other thing I loved about it is that it is set in Hamilton, Ontario, which is just down the road
Oh,
from me. Yes. So like it is like a love story to Hamilton at the same time and not like the uh gentrified Hamilton, but like the Hamilton. It
yeah.
is so it's like very cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
No, it was so funny when you brought that up. I was trying to look and for some reason, my story graph is not working at all. I don't know what's with oh, there it is. I just wanted to tell you, I just read a romance. It was a library romance, but
Oh,
I just want to tell you about it because it was, and I didn't bring it, but I'm just curious, what you think if
yeah.
this happens when you read romances. So a little bit of a
Okay.
digression here, but
Yeah.
it is called The Remaking of Corbin Whale, Wale,
Okay.
and it's a queer romance. And I was really excited to read it, a long story, but anyway, I wanted to read it and I was really enjoying it
Hmm.
because it was supposed to be sort of based on a Hallmark movie, where the guy lives in New York City and he's a baker, but then he has to move back home,
Yep.
and his mother had a coffee shop, but he turns it into a bakery, and now it's a really successful bakery, blah blah blah. And he meets a guy that he had gone to high school with, who was a few years younger, but had been like bullied in school, and then all of a sudden, at one point, he was gone, and he never knew what happened to him.
Yeah.
So he is coming into his bakery. Only thing is, and I like the premise. I thought it was interesting. I've never read a male queer romance before, but the Corbin was such a damaged character that he stayed damaged through the whole book. And by the end, I was thinking if this was a male female character, I would not be happy that the female never gained her strength and belief in herself, and
Yeah.
he was actually kind of giving in to him being dominating over him. Now, I don't know if that's a theme in like sometimes in queer romances, I don't know, but I just could not. That's why I thought I wasn't going to bring it, but I thought I'm just curious, like, does when you read a male female romance, do you feel sometimes like that where you go, wow, this character is still stuck in like trauma? And even though it's like they lived happily ever after, you go, I don't know. You ever feel that way with
I
male female romances that
I
you've read?
don't think so because I don't think I've read enough to like really give like an over sweeping or to, and I don't think I've read any where there's been that dynamic that doesn't
Yeah.
change. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I always feel like there's some kind of growth on both parts of the main characters.
Yeah. So I felt kind of bad because up until a certain point, I'm invested. I'm loving it. I'm loving the characters. I'm loving his vulnerability and then his his strength and whatever. But then I was like, God, I couldn't handle the end of it. So anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
curious. So
Maybe there's like more to this, like there's more to his story, obviously, that you're not get that what went beyond the time period the book is covering. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because I look at it this way: if this couple broke up, like in real life, Corbin would be toast. Like he
yes.
hasn't learned and he hasn't grown. He hasn't been able to stand on his own and recognize his own strength and power in a relationship. He's
Mhm.
just being subservient to the main character, the other main character. So, and
Mhm.
I don't remember his name, but yeah. So anyway, I was just curious because I thought, oh my God, like
Yeah.
I've never read a book where and I read tons of romances in the past, but I've never remember getting to a point where I thought, oh, yikes, that
Yeah.
other character, the vulnerable one, didn't have some growth. It was just thought it was weird. So anyway,
Yeah. No, I haven't. No, I don't think I've read anything like that, either straight or queer romance, where it's been
yeah,
that kind of dynamic that
yeah,
stays through it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there since you
Yeah.
brought up a romance at the end.
Yeah. No, I loved it. Plus, look how pretty this cover is too. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Which then I think with my oldest, I had this with me at one point. So Keegan saw it and we end up discussing just how, I don't know. I love these romance covers that they're doing lately, but that they don't look, because this one gets a little spicy. And then she then asked me, Keegan, that being she asked me if I was like 80, because I was like, so spicy. She's like, just say it, horny. And I'm like, spicy. Anyways, but it like kind of hides the fact that a book could be a little more sexually graphic than it's showing on the cover, right? You think you're just getting like a sweet romance, which it was, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
spice.
because the stuff I used to read in the old days, right? Like those Harlequin things and all those like really spicy ones that became spicy over time. They have like half naked people on the covers and
Yeah,
or like flames or something. So you know
yeah.
exactly what you're getting. But I feel like there was a point I want to say in the early 2000s maybe, where I don't know, like when did what's her name? Oh God, the one oh I can't think of it. Bridget Jones's Diary. I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like that's a point at which romance covers started to kind of change a little bit, and they became more like what you're showing. I mean, not that they still don't have the spicy looking
Oh
covers,
yeah.
but I think those covers, like you said, came out, and the stories are can be spicy, but you don't know that because the cover gives you no
Yeah.
hint at all. Yeah,
It's interesting. It's interesting because I love the covers, but at the same time, like it's weird that it's almost infantilizing uh
um,
the romance. You know what I mean? Like I just had this thought now kind of thing. It's interesting. I don't know.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
still
It's
seen like
almost
the more sexual, darker covers, but then those tend to be the more erotic books, and then the covers are always darker in terms of
yeah,
like the color scheme and stuff like this. Yeah.
yeah. That's
And
interesting. Hmm. Yeah.
on that little note, anything else you need to share, or I've come to the end of my
Nope.
pile? No.
Nope. I am excited to continue reading as always, and I really am hoping to report back on this stack
Yeah.
as soon as I can. So
Maybe
yeah,
the next check-in, the next reading from our shelves, you'll be able to be like, read it, right?
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay. Happy reading, everyone, and read Canadian and American. Read the world. Read it
No,
all.
I love that you said that. Read Canadian. I like that. So yeah. Okay, I agree. Read Canadian.
Yeah.
All right.
Next
Bye.
time.